Easter. The word likely conjures images of pastel colors, chocolate eggs, family gatherings, and the story of resurrection central to Christian faith. Yet, beneath this surface of joyous renewal and solemn observance lies a complex tapestry woven with threads of ancient history, contested theology, and persistent alternative narratives. Consider the Didache, an early Christian text dating potentially to the 1st century AD. Its instructions for baptism in the Eucharist show practices already evolving rapidly, hinting at diverse interpretations from Christianity's inception. This divergence isn't merely historical footnote. It's fertile ground. For centuries, questions surrounding Easter's origins, its symbols, and the foundational events it commemorates have spawned theories ranging from academic debate to outright conspiracy. This exploration delves into those shadows, examining some of the most enduring, controversial, and often unsettling theories attached to this globally significant holiday. We are not endorsing these claims, but rather undertaking a critical examination of the historical ambiguities, theological disputes, and cultural collisions that allow such ideas to persist and provoke. One of the most pervasive theories targets Easter's very name and timing. The assertion that it's fundamentally a Christianized pagan festival. The focal point is often a figure named Eostre, or Ostara, cited by the 8th century English monk Bede in his work De Temporum Ratione, The Reckoning of Time. Bede claimed the Anglo-Saxons called the month corresponding to April Eoster Monath, after a goddess, Eostre, whose feasts were celebrated then. This theory posits that the early church, seeking to convert pagan populations, strategically superimposed the celebration of Christ's resurrection onto existing spring festivals dedicated to Ostra, absorbing her symbols, the hare representing fertility and eggs signifying new life, into Christian practice. Proponents point to the coincidence of timing and the non-biblical origins of these symbols. However, historical evidence for a widely worshipped goddess Eostre beyond Bede's single mention is exceptionally thin. Scholars like Jacob Grimm in the 19th century attempted to reconstruct a broader Germanic mythology, including Ostara, but concrete archaeological or textual evidence remains elusive. The counterargument suggests Bede may have misinterpreted local customs, or that the assimilation was less a conspiratorial co-option and more a gradual, organic blending of seasonal folk traditions with emerging Christian celebrations, a common phenomenon known as syncretism. The debate highlights the difficulty in definitively separating ancient cultural practices. Moving from origins to the central event, the resurrection itself faces scrutiny through theories proposing not divine intervention, but human survival. The Swoon Theory represents one of the earliest and most persistent challenges, first appearing significantly in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, particularly promoted by figures like Karl Barth and Carl Venturini during the rationalist critique of religion. This hypothesis argues Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. Instead, weakened by scourging and crucifixion, he merely lost consciousness, swooned, succumbing to shock, pain, and exhaustion. Mistakenly declared dead by Roman soldiers, perhaps due to the haste before the Sabbath, he was placed in the tomb. The theory suggests the cool, damp air within the tomb, potentially combined with the stimulating effect of burial spices, mentioned in John's Gospel, myrrh and aloes, which had medicinal properties, revived him. He then shed his grave clothes, moved the stone, perhaps with help, and appeared to his disciples, who mistook his survival for a resurrection. Arguments supporting this often cite the reported speed of Jesus' death. Within hours, whereas crucifixion could take days, the Gospel accounts of blood and water flowing from the spear wound, interpreted by some as indicating circulation, and the possibility of resuscitation. However, the counter-arguments are substantial. Roman soldiers were professional executioners, highly experienced in ensuring death. The final spear thrust described in John 19:34, targeting the vital organs, is often cited as medically ensuring fatality. Furthermore, the sheer trauma of scourging and crucifixion would leave any survivor severely incapacitated, making the removal of a heavy tombstone and subsequent long-distance appearances highly improbable. If Jesus did die, what explains the empty tomb? This question fuels the second major category of resurrection denial theories: the deliberate removal of the body. The oldest version, mentioned directly in the Gospel of Matthew, 28:11-15, claims the Jewish authorities bribed the Roman guards to spread a story that Jesus' disciples stole the body while they slept. This stolen body hypothesis has endured, suggesting the disciples, desperate to maintain their movement's momentum or fulfill prophetic expectations, orchestrated the theft under cover of darkness. The motive? To fabricate the resurrection narrative that would become the cornerstone of Christianity. Variations exist. Perhaps it wasn't the disciples, but Joseph of Arimathea, or Nicodemus, retrieving the body for more permanent burial elsewhere, or even Roman or Jewish authorities removing it to prevent the tomb from becoming a shrine and potential source of unrest. Proponents argue this provides a rational explanation for the empty tomb, without recourse to the supernatural. The counterarguments often lean on textual analysis and psychological plausibility. The Gospels depict the disciples as terrified and scattered after the crucifixion, lacking the courage or organization for such a risky operation, especially past Roman guards. Furthermore, the profound transformation of the apostles from fearful followers to bold preachers willing to face martyrdom is presented as evidence of a genuine, paradigm-shifting event, the belief in a literal resurrection, rather than the consequence of perpetuating a known fraud. The detail in Matthew about the guards being bribed is itself presented by believers as anticipating and refuting this very theory from the outset. Beyond the core events, even Easter's seemingly benign symbols, particularly the Easter bunny, become entangled in more esoteric conspiracy theories. These narratives propose that symbols like the rabbit and the egg are not mere folk customs or remnants of paganism, but carry deeper encoded meanings preserved and perpetuated by secret societies. Theories link the hare, or rabbit, a symbol of fertility and swift movement across boundaries, and many ancient cultures consider its association with moondias or its trickster archetypes, to groups like the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, or even the Knights Templar. It's argued these societies use such common symbols as blinds, embedding hidden knowledge about ancient mysteries, cyclical rebirth, esoteric doctrines, or Gnostic principles within seemingly innocuous traditions. The egg, a near-universal symbol of creation, potential, and the world soul in various mythologies and alchemical traditions, is similarly interpreted not just as Christian rebirth, but as representing hidden gnosis or the philosopher's stone. While mainstream historical and folkloric studies explain the Easter bunny's popularization through German Lutheran traditions, the Osterhaus, bringing colored eggs to well-behaved children, migrating to America in the 18th century, conspiracy theorists look for patterns connecting rabbit symbolism in disparate contexts, from ancient Egypt to medieval alchemy to Masonic tracing boards, suggesting a deliberate, hidden continuity of meaning deliberately obscured by the modern, commercialized Easter. A cornerstone conspiracy theory impacting the very foundation of Orthodox Christian belief, including its account of Easter, centers on the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, convened by Roman Emperor Constantine, primarily to settle the Arian controversy regarding the nature of Christ. The council is portrayed in some theories not as a theological summit, but as a politically motivated consolidation of power that deliberately shaped the future of Christianity by selecting and suppressing texts. This narrative, popularized significantly by works like Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, argues that Constantine and allied bishops cherry-picked the four canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, that supported the view of Jesus' divinity and resurrection they wished to promote. Simultaneously, they allegedly ordered the destruction or marginalization of numerous other contemporary texts, often referred to collectively as Gnostic Gospels or Apocrypha, like the Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Philip, which offered alternative perspectives. Jesus as a wisdom teacher rather than divine, different accounts of his life and teachings. Or interpretations where resurrection was symbolic or spiritual, not literal. The conspiracy posits that the version of Christianity, and thus the orthodox understanding of Easter that emerged from Nicaea, was an engineered construct designed to unify the Roman Empire under a single state-sanctioned religion, sacrificing historical accuracy and theological diversity for political expediency. Mainstream historians counter that the canon formation was a much longer, more complex process, largely predating Nicaea, and that the council primarily addressed specific doctrinal disputes rather than undertaking a wholesale censorship campaign. Nonetheless, the idea of suppressed knowledge and a politically manipulated truth about Jesus and the resurrection remains a powerful and enduring conspiracy theory. How do such theories, often lacking robust historical or textual support, gain traction and persist across centuries? The mechanisms are complex, often tapping into fundamental aspects of human psychology and information processing. Firstly, ambiguity breeds speculation. Genuine gaps in the historical record, like the precise origins of certain folk customs or the limited details surrounding figures like Eostre, create voids that speculative narratives rush to fill. Secondly, confirmation bias plays a significant role. Individuals already distrustful of mainstream institutions, religious or governmental, are more likely to seek out and accept information, regardless of its veracity, that confirms their pre-existing suspicions. Sensationalist claims provide simple, often dramatic answers to complex questions, which can be more appealing than nuanced historical analysis requiring careful consideration of evidence. Thirdly, the narrative structure of conspiracy theories is often compelling. They present a Manichaean struggle between hidden forces of deception and brave truth seekers, offering a sense of empowerment and special knowledge to believers. In the digital age, the echo chambers of social media algorithms amplify these effects, allowing fringe ideas to circulate rapidly, often divorced from context or counter-evidence, reinforcing belief within self-selected groups. The Easter conspiracies, blending history, religion, and folklore, provide particularly fertile ground for these dynamics. The persistence of these Easter-related conspiracy theories reveals more than just historical curiosity. It reflects ongoing societal tensions surrounding faith, authority, and the nature of truth itself. For some, questioning the origins of Easter symbols or the events of the resurrection is a form of critical engagement with dominant narratives, challenging perceived institutional control over history and belief. It can be an attempt to reclaim perceived lost histories, whether pagan roots or suppressed Christian traditions. For others, these theories tap into a deeper skepticism about power structures, viewing historical events like the Council of Nicaea through the lens of political manipulation, where religious doctrine becomes a tool for social control. The sociological impact lies not necessarily in the theory's factual accuracy, but in their function as alternative knowledge systems. They provide frameworks for understanding the world that stand outside and often in opposition to mainstream academic and theological consensus. Engaging with these theories, even to debunk them, requires acknowledging the genuine historical complexities, cultural blends, and interpretive ambiguities that make traditions like Easter such rich sites for meaning-making and for the projection of anxieties about hidden influence and lost truths. Understanding why people believe these things is as important as analyzing the theories themselves. From the contested legacy of Eostre to the profound questions surrounding the empty tomb and the alleged machinations at Nicaea, the theories surrounding Easter are multifaceted. We've examined the Swoon Theory's rationalist challenge, the stolen body hypothesis' explanation for absence, the symbolic interpretations linking bunnies to secret societies, and the claim of politically motivated censorship shaping Christian doctrine. It is crucial to reiterate that these remain largely theories, often built on selective evidence, conjecture, or interpretations running counter to extensive historical and theological scholarship. Yet, their persistence underscores the power of narrative and the human desire to find patterns and explanations, especially where faith, history, and cultural practice intersect and blur. Distinguishing between plausible historical influence like the undeniable syncretism that blended seasonal customs across cultures, and elaborate, unproven conspiracies requires critical thinking, source evaluation, and an appreciation for nuance. Easter, in its modern form, is undeniably a complex layering of ancient seasonal rites, foundational religious beliefs, folk customs, and commercial elements. Perhaps its true richness lies not in uncovering a single hidden truth, but in understanding this intricate blend